I'm going to do my best to sell you on it. It's the Boats and the Renegades. I think this is the only league where a winless team can be a 3.5-point favorite. I mean, where do you see that anywhere else? This is the UFL, folks. Total at this one is 45. Forecast for Saturday looking like 79 and cloudy. Let's get weird. And when you have the two worst defenses in the league, you got to ask yourself, who has the better offensive weapons in this matchup? For me, the answer is pretty clearly Arlington. You could point to a few common opponents that both of these teams played. I think the best example is probably how each team looked against Michigan. So we'll look at that. The last 2 weeks, each of these teams played Michigan. For the Renegades, it was over 100 yards rushing. They were a solid 58% on third down. Perfect 3 for 3 in the red zone. Gave up only 1 sack and did not turn the ball over. So that was their day offensively against Michigan. Now let's look at Memphis. 2 weeks ago against that same Panthers team. 41 rushing yards. 45% on third down. 2 for 3 in the red zone was a bright spot, but 2 turnovers. And the icing on the cake, 7 sacks allowed. So listen, this is Arlington against Arlington, as it has been for most of the season. If they don't beat themselves like they did against Houston and Michigan and D.C., I think they'll get their first win of the season. Luis Perez still leading the UFL in passing, 221 a game. Not turning the ball over either, just 2 picks. That's as many as A.J. McCarron. The receivers looked really good last week, and I've been preaching about this receiving core all year. Javonte Payton had a big drop, bounced back from it, few big catches, scored on a reverse. You have to feel for Renegades running back, Day Hunter. I don't know if you guys caught this. He scored his first touchdown of the season, first touchdown of his professional career, and he jumps up, lands awkwardly on his leg. You could tell right away it's one of those just embarrassing, humiliating injuries where the players, like, they want to try to run off the field quick and hide it, that they didn't just get hurt celebrating, but Day Hunter goes to IR, out for the year. I absolutely hate that for the kid. He was looking really, really good. But that's the kind of stuff you learn about celebrations, and it's a coaching moment for Bob Stoops, to be able to talk to some of his guys. But really just a freak accident altogether. So Arlington goes out and re-signs Devin Darrington, who some of you remember from Orlando last season. He actually got cut by the Renegades in camp. That's the guy who I wondered if that would have been Juice Ellison if San Antonio hadn't gone and grabbed him off the waivers. Arlington has one of the worst backfields in the UFL. It's no secret at this point. Davion Smith nearly gave the game away with a fumble last week. Just continues to not impress. And you could point the finger at him. You could point the finger at the offensive line, the run game coordinators. But I don't know. This backfield doesn't impress me whatsoever. Luckily, the center, Jake Lucina, fell on the ball after that Davion Smith fumble. But really, that just prolonged the inevitable for Arlington, which is, if the offense doesn't lose it for you, defense and special teams will lose it for you. The Renegades just blow fourth quarter leads. That's what they do. And looking at the Memphis defense, this is a defense that has more holes than Augusta National. I don't have any analysis here. So we'll flip sides of the ball. Memphis offense. I mean, where do we go here? I know a lot of you are hoping that we just fast forward through this part and get to Birmingham, St. Louis. And I might have to do just that. This is ugly with Memphis's offense. 2 really bad units with the Arlington defense grouped in there as well. But the Showboats offense is even worse. How are you 8th in passing, rushing, and turnovers? You're not good at one thing. It's like watching the 3 blind mice. And they're out there trying to find the cheese. And they finally get there. And then slam. Trap right on Case Cookis' rib cage. Every single time this team plays. And if football games were 15 minutes, the Memphis Showboats might be champions of the UFL. But unfortunately, they are 60 minutes. I don't know how you start this fast every week and you're still 1-5. Troy Williams getting the nod over Case Cookus this week. Depth charts just came out. Again, lukewarm on that. Not sure how I feel. Whatever. I'm sure that'll be a timeshare the rest of the year. Like we saw kind of with Jalen McClendon in the XFL last season, how they opted to put the younger guy in. And, he was a backup and try to get him some reps down the stretch when the season is basically over. Renegades defensively, you can never put any faith in them. I guess last week they really weren't half bad. They gave up 2 touchdowns and 18 field goals. But they made some key stops. They just don't capitalize. Here's a stat for you. Renegades, points off turnovers, 3. If you can't tell, that's the worst in the league. 3 points off turnovers this season. They haven't turned a takeaway into a touchdown, so I think Memphis can do enough to drop, I don't know, maybe 23 here, maybe more like 20, because I think they're 1% on point after attempts. That this is just, they don't convert those whatsoever. They're 1 for 10 on those. But the bottom line, these are the worst 2 defenses in the league. Memphis is 4-0 to the over bet since week 2. So I'm guessing a weird 26-23 type of game here. I think Arlington will probably lead by double digits at some point, and then you'll get some weird Memphis rally out of Troy Williams in the fourth quarter. Arlington tends to give up a bunch of nonsense and get in their own way late in games. So the pick is the Renegades for me, Zook, but listen, do not lay the points. I would rather eat a bee's nest than lay points with the Arlington Renegades at this point in the season. Do not do it. It's like a big Mr. Yuck sticker just slapped right on that Renegade logo. Toxic. Don't do it. Just take the over. Make it easy for yourself. Zook, who you got before we get this lovely matchup out of the way here? The worst of the year.
I don't. This is crazy to me because I don't even know why I'm picking the Renegades.